Delegation, deliberation.
Delegations.
Station.
Liberations. Woo.
I probably got some shoe dust in there.
I don't mind.
It's good. Adds the bacteria.
Some
That's right.
fecal matter.
Life is much grittier.
Probably. I've walked in the bathroom in these shoes.
Whoa. Different paradigm. Yeah, but you're raising a kid. You are used to
Poop?
body fluids and all of the other animal functions of humanity.
Yeah.
It's just a part of life.
What a way to start an episode.
You probably eat shit all the time.
You probably drink poop on a daily basis.
We're going to talk about kids today.
We are going to talk. This actually is a great way to start this podcast.
We're going to talk
Poop
about
and kids.
children. Yeah.
If you're not interested in poop and kids, you will not like this.
Well, if you have an aversion to children, just tune it out now. Come in next week. We don't know what we're going to talk about, but this is going to be about art and kids.
I like how Sean was just like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't say that. Keep listening. Either.
Cancel that part out.
Out of preparation for what might happen later in your life.
Yeah. Accidentally, maybe.
Well, it's better if it's planned, I'm told.
It is better if it's planned.
Yeah. Wanted,
easier now than
planned,
ever
prepared
before.
for, nesting instinct, not running away from the responsibility, all that stuff.
Was your son planned?
Yeah.
That wasn't very confident.
Oh, well, it was sort of it's a long story.
Yeah. If it's a long story, it doesn't sound very planned.
Yeah. Definitely celebrated at this point, but all my work was done a long time ago.
I like that answer. Was it planned? It was celebrated. That's great.
Okay. Where do we go?
Cooper was planned.
I kind of figured. Any other plans, or is that a question not to ask on a podcast?
Other plans.
Ooh. You're going to do the gender thing where you try for until you get the counterpointing gender so you can say we've experienced the whole gamut.
Yeah, like we both want a girl. Mm-hmm. And we're going to end up with 5 boys.
Yeah, that happens.
That's what happens.
You don't make these decisions yet.
Science can make it happen, guys.
It's true. We could choose now.
Yeah.
But it's not a process that you want to go.
I see. Okay.
It's like, do you really want a girl that much?
Yeah.
Or are you willing to risk a boy?
And
like,
what is your attitude?
I'm not willing to pay all this money and go through this unnatural process.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm fine if I end up with 3 boys.
There is another thing, which is the illusion that if planning a gender or even planning a child gives the illusion of control, it is an illusion that will be shattered. Because no matter what the situation, children are unpredictable. There's no way. It's the biggest embracing of uncertainty that I can imagine in life.
Yeah. What are you talking? Are you talking about like you get your girl, but then she turns into a boy?
No, but I mean that bringing a child.
It's like Jurassic Park.
What?
It's like Jurassic Park.
What happened in Jurassic Park?
Yeah, life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
I didn't get it.
All the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are female, and then they find out somehow that they changed their gender because of certain frog DNA that's put in them.
I've seen it a few times, but I guess I never caught that.
Okay, Marshall.
Let's roll the intro.
Yeah,
Hi, Stan.
roll the intro. Hi, I'm Stan. I teach art on Proko. Marshall.
I'm Marshall, and I co-host the podcast with Stan Prokopenko.
There you go. Roll the intro for the Draftsmen show.
It's the Draftsmen show. Yeah.
The subject today is kids.
Yes.
Sort of.
Well, what about kids?
We had a question
Oh yeah. Okay. You want me
posed
to
to
read
us.
it?
Why don't you read that one, and I'll read the one that was posed today.
Oh, what? There's 2 questions?
There were 2 questions on this. What was yours?
From Firefly 46750 minutes ago.
Oh.
That's what it says in my document. Anyone have tips for parents of small children? I'm about to be a moom, and I'm trying to figure out how to fit art in there. And then there's an emoji with a eye drop or a water drop going down onto one eye.
It's like sweating.
Sweating, not crying, but sweating.
Yeah.
It's like
But
on the forehead.
It is so hard to get all this done. I am worn
But she's
out.
smiling, open-mouthed.
Okay. Still sweating, but glad.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh.
Very analogous to the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we figured out like a few minutes ago that I misinterpreted this question.
How did you interpret it?
I thought she was saying that I'm gonna be a mom. How do I fit art into my child's life?
And that's not what she's asking.
I don't know. Maybe she is.
Well-
She said, I'm about to be a mom. I'm trying to figure out how to fit art in there.
In there.
Where is there?
I think that since
In the child.
she's not a mom yet, my guess is that she's talking about fitting art into her life.
Okay.
Since
probably. I
yeah.
agree. You're probably right. That's what she's saying.
But you want to deal with the first one first? The misinterpretation first about how you fit art into a child's life, or should we save that for the end?
Okay, sure. My thing is give them the tools, give them the options to explore.
Mm-hmm.
They'll cling on to something, and then you keep providing them with what they need to excel.
That sounds good.
But you don't choose for them.
It's non-intrusive. You just give them the option,
Yeah.
and they can choose it if they want it.
Yeah.
Boy, that's good.
Is that it? Are we done with that one?
That's what
Well,
I
let's
guess
move
we're
on
done
to the
with
real
that one.
question now.
What's that? Oh, okay. That one.
How do you fit art into your life when you're about to have kids, or already maybe have kids?
Let's take someone who apparently already has kids.
Is there
The
another
name is
question?
on there, Courtney Contreras. Where are all the artists with kids? How do artists who are also mothers and fathers still make it? I draw and paint, but is it over for me? I know 0 famous artists with children. Ooh.
Famous artists with children.
We could list famous artists with children.
Both of the Draftsmen currently have children.
We both have children. Yes.
Or a child, yeah.
A child. Well,
More
I have
than-
2 dogs.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Sorry.
Pets
I had to go there.
Pets are a very toned. They're the same thing,
It's
but
like
with
1%.
way lower
I
degree.
agree. But,
Yeah.
I think of them as my kids.
Yeah.
Melissa and I call them the kids.
Yeah.
And we call Cooper.
He's
got
the
the
dog.
special-
Like, are
human
you going to
being
drop
cat.
off the kids? We mean the dog.
The dog, yeah.
We don't mean Cooper.
Right. Well, would it do any good to? I don't know whether it would do any good to list famous artists with kids, but the first one that comes to my mind was N.C. Wyeth, since he was so patriarchal. His wife fell into the shadows very much. His kids talk about him as such a dominating force in the family. He was the father of 5 kids, one of whom was Andrew Wyeth. There's a wonderful documentary that is quite touching as well, called N.C. Wyeth, A Father and His Family, from the late 80s, I'm guessing. Really worth your time. But it is not an idealized portrait, even though there's a sense of romance to it, but there's also the awareness of some of the difficulties of that. And he has his grandson, Jamie Wyeth, also. So that's one of the most famous...
Rockwell.
Pardon?
Rockwell, but he was known to be a bad father?
One
wanna
of
start
his
rumors.
sons, at least one of his sons, was quite bitter about his absence from the family.
Jeff Watts' father, Robert Watts. They're both artists.
Okay.
Robert Watts is a great artist.
So there are famous artists.
Let's mention some mums.
Okay. Let's mention some mums. The ones that I'm thinking of, Remedios Varo is one of my favorites. She never had kids. Beatrix Potter never had kids.
Angelina Jolie.
Does she have kids?
Adopted like 10 kids.
10 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't even have to think of artists. Why does it have to be an artist? It could be anyone that's busy with their career and also as a parent. There's no difference. The problem that really they're asking is, how do I find time to do this other thing? Right? That's the only
Yes.
problem. It doesn't matter what else you're doing. It's just the time factor. So we could think of
it's not just a
politicians,
time
we could
factor.
What else
It's
is it?
an energy factor, right? Which
Sure,
it's maybe
energy,
related to time.
But all those other things in your career would still require energy.
Yes.
One problem here is we might be listing artists that were famous and then they had kids. Or they had their career already like pretty much set up to get famous.
Yeah.
And then they had kids. It wasn't like they had kids, but they're still like really early on and like they're still a student or something.
Yeah. Let me tell you an interesting historical irony. You look at the greatest children's book writers, children's book illustrators, and children's book writers and illustrators. Let's start with Lewis Carroll. He never had kids. Beatrix Potter never had kids. Dr. Seuss never had kids. Maurice Sendak never had kids. Shel Silverstein almost never had kids. But a number of the children's book writers and illustrators who did have kids had them after they had had their success, because people who don't understand children's book writing and illustration, especially the ones who do it so great, do not understand that it is a lifestyle. And there are, I think, two reasons. One that I was always aware of before I had kids and afterwards is that people don't know how demanding producing good children's entertainment is. And so they underestimate the time, and they figure, well, I got kids, I can write and entertain them. But there's another thing that a friend of mine pointed out, he and his wife didn't have children. And he said, there's another thing, and that is that as soon as you become a parent, you're in the role of police person. You are in the role of having to maintain order, which means that you are in a role that does not play well as the fellow child. And you look at the subversive quality of people like Shel Silverstein and Dr. Seuss, who there is an energy right from the beginning of it's you and I against the grown-ups. Even if it's not specific, there is a sense of I'm on your level. And as soon as you become on the level up here, looking down on the child, there's something different. It's like children's book illustrators who will not consider where the point of view of the camera is, whereas many of them know, put it down there where you're looking up under the table and you're looking up into grown-ups' noses. It's an empathy with your audience that married couples or people in general can play the role of us.
That's interesting. That kind of also applies to running a business.
How?
Well, you're kind of policing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not like as much as with a kid, but you have to make sure everything's going well and like everyone's doing what they should be doing.
And it becomes a kind of energy.
It is this kind of energy
that defines you, that you have to consciously be able to break out of. And many a parent, particularly a parent who has to play the harder role, the disciplinarian, the police person, is not. They may be able to be the entertainer, but I think it's a different bearing toward a child's.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different options here, and it depends on what you want and what you have available to you. Like some parents are able to both have full-time jobs and have someone watch the child during the day, whether it's a grandparent, a sibling of theirs, family. Your child can be with other family members, but it depends on your family dynamic. It depends on if you can afford a nanny, if you're comfortable with a nanny. It depends on all these things. If you're not, then you're going to be spending the most energetic prime time of your day for 12 hours, probably, maybe even more. No, probably like 12 hours. Watching this child, and when they're sleeping, you are taking a break because you're exhausted.
You're recovering.
Yeah, you're recovering, and you cannot go and like paint. But I mean, also like you probably have a spouse. Being a single parent is like on a top level
of difficulty.
Probably no hope of having a career outside of that. Right? Should I say that?
It's so hard.
I can't imagine being a single parent and also trying to do something else. I can't see how that's possible.
Trying to be encouraging and be realistic. I remember had a really difficult transition into fatherhood, and Bob Duncan, who he and his wife had been successful writers for many years, when my son was only a year or two old, I remember him having dinner with me, and we stayed up late into the night, and he said, tell me how it's going. Tell me how it's going with fatherhood and your career. And I said, gosh, it's rough. And nobody asked me those things. So for Bob to open up that subject meant that he understood that you've got a conflict of energy. And he said, I said, it's rough. And I told him how it was working and how it was a challenge. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, I know that I was not as good a father as I could have been if I had not been trying to be a writer. And I know that I was not as good a writer as I would have been if I had not tried to be a father. Yeah. And so there was no pretending otherwise. But I heard this from over and over from people, that you will compromise your career unless your career is already established. So it would be unrealistic to say it's going to be all okay and you're going to have a career and your kids are going to turn out fine. It just wouldn't. I don't know how to address this except to say that there is the challenge. I don't really have an answer for this. I'm going to stab around at it.
Yeah, it is a reality that you're going to have way less time either way, but it can work kind of. Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Glenn Vilppu, in the 1990s, Glenn Vilppu had an instructional VHS in which he was talking about, he was copying from some Renaissance drawing of a cherub, a child, and he was talking about the proportions of a child. And he said something to the effect that if you don't know what the proportions of a child are, is have a child. Have a few children, and that way you're going to watch them grow, and you'll notice how the head and the body change. And I remember watching this with students, and everybody looking at each other, and somebody, it might have been me, said, do not have a child. Yeah. Out of the motivation that I want to learn the proportions of a child as it grows. You'll never get any drawing done anyway because you're going to be busy dealing with this kid.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Most artists that I know that are really, really, really serious about their career, and that's like their life, is their art career. Mm-hmm. Most of them decide not to have kids. And the ones I'm thinking about, actually, the husband and wife are both artists.
Mm-hmm. And they've decided not to have children.
They've decided not to have children. Yeah. It's like, if they're both artists, probably one of them is going to suffer more than the other. Not suffer, I mean, their career is going to severely slow down more than the other. It's not going to be an equal thing. Mm-hmm. Because one of them will have to be making the money to support the family. Mm-hmm. And so whoever is further along in their career will probably be the one who gets to keep going with their career. The other one gets to stay home with the child. And they're just going to pretty much stop.
Did you say gets to stay home with the child?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Gets to stay home.
I'm glad you worded it that
instead
way.
of saying has to stay home.
Wait, did I say that?
I think you did.
To.
Yeah.
I think you said gets to stay home with the child.
I said that accidentally. That wasn't.
The one who gets to stay home with the child has the harder job, I think.
Yes.
But
because it's not selfish. It's more difficult to do everything for someone else rather than do everything for yourself.
And as one psychologist said, when you are out in the workplace, as difficult as it is, you do not usually have to use force as often as you have to use force in a family when you've got children. And using force can be exhausting. There's just there are.
What do you mean by force?
Like
using force. You force your will on this, even though the child doesn't want it. There's going to be trials that a person not doing it cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Until they've done it, and then they don't need to imagine it, and then when it's over, they choose never to think about that again, and just remember all of the good parts. But it is the person who stays home with the child has the harder job, but they also have a reward, and the getting to report the good things too.
It's true.
But what are we offering to a person who's asking this question?
Maybe just the person listening is enjoying hearing it from us.
Hearing that somebody else understands.
Yeah.
Small comfort.
Yeah. We can't promise them that it'll be okay.
No.
I know that if you really want it really, really bad, that if your drawing career is more important than the child you're about to have, you'll figure it out. Yeah. Whether it hurts your child or not, you'll figure it out. hopefully you can figure out in a way that it doesn't hurt your child.
Yeah.
That there could be someone to watch the child who's a good role model while you're focusing on this, and then you come and you spend 5 hours a day with that child. It's like these are options, but it depends on the individual of how comfortable they are with exploring those options.
Well, since we've been asked about it, let's just list some of these options. You just mentioned some of them.
A nanny or a family member.
Let's start with the worst possible one, though, to get that out
adoption?
of the way. No. The worst possible resolve.
What's that?
Well, no.
What's worse than that?
We'll start with.
Don't go there.
Two that we don't. Here's the first one. One is to neglect the child because the career is more important.
Oh, I guess adoption is better than neglection, huh? Just being a horrible parent and just ignoring, that is worse than giving them up for it.
But some people choose that. I think, didn't Steve Jobs make a statement that he wanted his children to know that the reason he wasn't there is because he was doing this big thing to change the world?
Okay.
I had heard something like that. I can't verify it.
Okay.
But and again, Norman Rockwell comes to mind. Norman Rockwell would not have been Norman Rockwell, and he would not have his stature in illustration history if he had put that energy into being parent. So there's one thing, which is to turn the child over to others or neglect the child so that you can pursue the career. It's an option. It's hardly a good option, but it depends on your values. There's another one, and that is to live vicariously through the child. I couldn't be a football player, but I'm going to raise kids who can be football players, and I'll make them be football players. Like my kids are going to go into ballet, and they're going to be ballet dancers, and you push them into something, reward them for doing it, withhold rewards for not doing it, and manipulate the child into living out the thing that you couldn't do yourself is another way that a great deal of pain happens in young people's lives. I've seen it in my students more times than I've kept track of. And sometimes they become artists because the parent wanted them so badly to be a doctor or an athlete or whatever other thing. Yeah. So there's a second negative way. Let's get the negative ways out of the way. Is there any other that occurs to you?
Murder.
I wouldn't take it that far, although it can happen. But this
you just wanted to get the negatives out of the way.
Give it the extremes.
Well, these aren't funny. These are the negatives.
I think it's pure comedy.
Sean, you're not a father. You don't understand.
Hey, I own a lizard.
You own a lizard? No. What else is there? Neglect, adoption.
I remember.
We're getting into we shouldn't be giving this advice.
I think it was M. Scott Peck who talked about how a child who is rejected by their parents has a better chance than the child who is constantly affirmed by their parents saying, we support you and we love you, but they don't really. And the child senses the disconnect between the reality, which they have no words for, only feelings, and all they can say is that my stomach hurts a lot or whatever else, and the specific and explicit message that the parents give to say, we love you and we support you, and it drives the child crazy because they cannot make sense out of reality in their blossoming consciousness. So it would be better to reject the child, and the child says, no, as my parents reject me, it's going to be painful. It is painful, but they can then seek other support that gets them in touch with reality so that they know what their battle is. So I'm not to say that adoption's a good option, but it's actually it might be the lesser of two evils. Now we gradually move into something. I may have something to offer.
What's that?
I've got a few things to offer just from being on this side of it.
Yeah.
One is that I loved children's books through my childhood and even into my adulthood. And I remember I would go into the bookstore and the library and check out children's books in my 20s. And they'd say, how old's your kid? And I'd say, I don't have a kid. And the look that I would get.
Like, what are you doing here, you pervert?
Yeah, there was that sense. But I loved children's books and still do. And then when I've got a kid, now you are given permission to buy and collect. And not only that, but from the time before he even understood words, I would sit him on my lap and read, and we'd look at the page, and then I learned I can read upside down for some reason. I don't know why. I just thought everybody could read upside down. I got the idea before he was 2 years old to put him this way, hold the book upside down, read it to him, and that way I got both the book and I got his face to watch the response to this. And I spent hundreds of hours throughout my son's childhood reading books all the way into where he was older. He let me read to him, and it was a great investment.
So what's your advice?
Right, because I can go on for 20 minutes.
Because you said, I do have some advice.
The things that you would do with a child, that the child will enjoy and that you will enjoy, this is your opportunity to indulge him, her. By the time your kids are in their teens, they may not want you to read to them anymore. And I found that when he left the house, I am just aching for someone to read books to. So I do it to classrooms.
So learn to love it. Learn to enjoy being a parent.
The things that you aren't going to be able to do later, yes. Cool. That's one thing.
Yeah. What's the other one?
The other is to play art-related games. Let's set that one aside, because I got another set.
That one sounded fun.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it.
Are you reading to Cooper, or is anyone in your family?
Yeah. He reads now.
Yeah, we read Game of Thrones last week.
Yeah, he read Game of Thrones. We do. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he has 2 bookshelves that we put on his wall, and he'll pick a book.
Good ones?
Yeah, and then he'll throw them around. Yeah. He'll use them as
frisbees.
Good ones.
You have Goodnight Moon?
We don't have Goodnight Moon.
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic.
We started with the Jimmy Fallon ones.
Those are happening now.
Mama and Dada.
Okay.
We have the worst alphabet book and the best alphabet book.
Are they called
Those
that?
are funny. Yeah. We have a lot.
Anyway,
why are you asking?
To sum up the books thing, I got the privilege of a few hundred hours of indulging children's books, and it was not neglecting fatherhood. It was a bonding that is really a sweet memory to me.
I think that advice just helps you to enjoy it a little bit more, is when you can have common interests, but it really doesn't help you in your career, though.
Well, I don't know about that, because I've gotten...
Well, let me tell you then, if you don't know.
I'm going to tell you. I'm casting doubt on your speculation.
That's what you meant by that.
That children's book illustration certificate that we're doing at the junior college, and the children's book classes that I've taught, I had a long, my graduate study was real world stuff.
Sure.
That lets me know my way around the last.
It helps you as much as playing video games can help you. It's
as
like,
a video game designer,
it exposed me to video games, and so now I can make better video games. It's like, to a degree.
But do you doubt that?
No, I don't. But it's like, it's such a tiny amount of building a career. It's like, I read children's books.
It is a tiny amount, but we are grasping at straws here.
I get it, but it mostly helps you just to enjoy the time more.
Okay.
It doesn't help you that much in actually getting... she's asking, like, how do I become a famous artist? It's like, read books to your kid.
If I give you a thing about games, the next thing is going to be, okay, well, that's another straw, Marshall.
Oh, okay.
Should we do it?
I get it. I probably know what you're about to say. Play art games so that you can enjoy doing art stuff while you're with your kid.
Wait, before the games thing, let me mention another thing that happened in my life, but this is going to be all me reminiscing. We moved to a new area and found that there was a husband and wife who were artists. They made their living as artists. They were both fine artists, and they sold anything they could to anyone, and they had a big house with lots of production space and jewelry and everything. It was like the Addams Family house in a lot of ways. Everything was in there.
Yeah.
Animals and spiders and bison skulls and everything else. And they had a number of kids. And one of the boys was a year older than my son. One of the boys was a year younger. And they became a team that were creative. They hung around all the time. They designed video games. They did tons of artwork. Got lots of stories about that. But Ken Mattson and I drove to classes together. He used to drive me to my classes. We were learning together. And then he had ideas for art games. One of them was to get together with the boys, and here's what we do. We have a grab bag of pieces of paper, an adjective, a noun, a verb, and then some direct object like an event.
Okay.
And so you'd have something like a you'd pull them out of a hat and combine them, and then everybody draws their own version. A tough bunny watches a boxing match.
Yeah.
And then we would each draw it, and then we'd put it out there.
Okay.
And it was great social time.
That one's more related, because that one you actually get to practice drawing.
That's right. And I had just at that time, I'd been teaching animal anatomy for a while, so I was learning how to draw rabbits and get their anatomy right. And so I got to do my tough bunny watching.
Might help you be more creative too.
That's right. And also one of those, the younger son was really talented. I mean, I'm sorry to use the term, but he came up with ideas for monsters all the time. In fact, I took some of his little sketches of monsters.
You copied,
and I turned them gave him some draftsmanship, and
you took his ideas as yours.
Yeah, but he also he decided to become an artist, and so being around children in their artistic, creative state can be invigorating.
Yeah,
and you learn a ton, even though it's dirty learning. It's not organized like a teacher,
right?
But it is learning in a chaotic way about how creativity happens. I learned a number of the most important lessons in creativity, not from reading all of those creativity books, but from watching 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds work at their projects and seeing what they naturally do and how they adjust. And that becomes a part of my teaching, is that this is an icon of innocence that knows instinctively how to go about it, that grown-ups have to relearn. Yeah. So again, I know we're grasping at things that can be encouraging, but sharing of their media, introducing them to old stuff that's great, that they're too young to know that it isn't cool, that I only want to know what the culture knows, and you're saying, look, we've got these things that, Little Nemo and Slumberland. My son and I spent 3 years reading through those things.
Whoa.
And I remember when he was about 7 years old, I shot some slides. I said, hey, I've got a slide presentation. And we'd always read them in books of Little Nemo and Slumberland. Would you like to watch them? We turned off all the lights. We projected them up on the wall. And afterward, he said, there's just nothing like Little Nemo. And I thought, there really isn't. They are so gorgeous. He was too young to know that was not happening in the mainstream culture.
Interesting.
And we didn't have television either, all through his childhood. So there was that advantage too.
How long does that stage last, where your whole day is dedicated to the child? Like till they're like 5 or 6, right? When they go to school and they're gone from 8 or 7 a.m. till 2 or 3, right? And then you have that whole time to work on your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
5 or 6, so it's not too bad. It's like a pause for 5 years.
If you could see it that way,
Kind
yeah.
of.
It's like
I'm trying to be positive
I
here,
know.
Marshall.
It's like a pause where you're running yourself ragged.
Yeah, I get it. But I mean, it's not like a full pause. Those 5 years, if you can trade off, where if your husband or your wife does half a day, you do half. You can make it work.
Well, you're bringing up the next thing that may be the most important of all, that the community of people around you is the biggest factor, and the extended family of having grandma and grandpa on either side and all sorts of others. Because it takes 6 human beings to raise one child because of the amount of energy. And so just historically, naturally, there was a whole village of people who were helping with the children, and it isn't that way now. So that can sometimes be the biggest challenge. And also, if you've got grandparents that you say, I don't want my grandparents to be a part of this process.
Why not?
Because they're bad influences.
Oh.
Because they're going to carry through the same dysfunctions they gave to you. They're going to do it to your kids. So there's all sorts of complex challenges that everybody's situation is different.
Yeah, depends. Hopefully you have family that can help.
Hopefully.
I've heard authors talk about how when they had kids, before, they were not famous, they had kids, and they'd get like 2 to 3 hours of like work time in a day, because the rest was taking care of kids. And that became their most productive time ever, because it was so limited that they were able to like do a bunch of work in like 2 hours versus...
How? Because
staying up late, usually it's just like having a partner.
You have to figure out how to regain that energy.
Yeah, or if
after an
or if
exhausting
your creative
day,
output is
or wake up really early.
Yeah. Wake up early.
Do it do it before you're super tired. Yeah, okay. If you're really motivated, I guess you would do that.
I'm seeking some kind of closure to offer a person who's asking this.
Okay.
Here's the best that I can offer. Is that now we've got the options. One option is to back off on the career and to spend a little time on this to keep your hand in, to keep in shape. You don't have to be a pro tennis player, but you can play tennis 2 or 3 times a week so that you're keeping in shape with it. And pick it up later, because as we talked about a couple episodes ago, that going at it with a renewed vigor after you're done with the kids does happen. There can be the second wave where you're able to do it. Mm-hmm. And then what Sean just mentioned is that what if you can get 6 hours a week, 2 hours a day here, 3 times a week, and make it so that that time is sacred, precious time for you. It's absolutely mommy time. And mommy wants to do this, and mommy will do this, and that will not be encroached on. And make it so that you are working as smart as opposed to hard as possible to have it accumulate. So that by accretion, you're going to have those 6 or 7 years. You would never have gotten that if you had not said, at least I've got my 6 hours a week regularly.
This episode is brought to you by the Proko Figure Drawing Fundamentals course. Learn the core concepts of drawing through the tradition of figure drawing, a process that will allow you to draw dynamic and 3-dimensional people in any position and light them from any angle. This is a course that will walk you through the whole process, from drawing the gesture and motion of the pose, all the way to shading the forms. You'll explore how to simplify the torso into the bean and robo-bean, how to mannequinize the anatomical forms, and how to identify important landmarks on the body. You'll also learn how to measure proportions, exaggerate the pose, and keep your figures balanced. Each lesson includes assignments and example demonstrations, which serve as answers for the assignments. I've even included critique videos with real student assignments, so you can learn from their mistakes. So if you're interested in learning how to draw the human figure and don't want your drawings to look like this, go to proko.com/figure. I've packed it with lessons and laughs so you can have fun while learning serious drawing skills. Okay, back to the podcast.
Good closure. Voicemail?
Voicemail.
Hey guys, my name's Andrew. First off, wanted to say love the show, but my question is, what are your thoughts on practice? Is there good practice, bad practice, or is all practice just good for growing as an artist?
There's good practice and there's bad practice, and not all practice is good for growing as an artist.
Yeah.
Anything to...
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Maybe elaborate. What is bad
practice? Throwing your pencil at your paper. And you just keep doing that? It's bad practice.
I practiced that for hundreds of hours.
That's why you suck.
It was not good practice.
It was not good practice.
It was to try to solve a problem, and it ended up becoming a problem.
Yeah. Okay, so what's better practice? What's slightly worse practice?
We've talked about it before.
Yeah, we have. Deliberate practice is the best practice.
And prescriptive deliberate practice.
What's the difference?
The difference is that it's not just deliberate practice. It's that I need practice on this thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to another thing.
Yeah, so you're deliberately choosing.
Oh, deliberately choosing. Yeah, prescriptive means that it is solving a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, what I mean by deliberate practice is you're not just like taking out a sketchbook and doodling without having a reason, right? It's like people think practicing just means drawing. It's like, I drew, but were you practicing? Or were you just doodling or sketching or whatever?
This isn't that helpful an answer, though. Andrew, did you really think...
Wow!
I mean, what we're offering is something we've already dealt with. Andrew, did you really think that there's no such thing as bad practice versus good practice?
I think no such thing as bad practice is a thing that circulates on the internet.
No, idea that no such thing as bad practice.
That concept circulates and everyone's like, well, any practice is
I don't
practice.
agree.
No, I don't agree with that either.
Definitely
so maybe
bad
elaborate
practice.
on that. Like, what would you consider bad practice?
What I just said.
But not like throwing a pencil.
No,
the
other thing that I just said, where you go into it not having
A goal?
a goal. You just think that just sketching something is going to be practice. You have to analyze yourself, figure out what your weaknesses are. Which ones do you want to improve? You don't have to improve all your weaknesses. Some might not matter. But if you think that one of your weaknesses really matters and you need to improve it, deliberately choose to practice that rather than just sketching stuff.
Yeah. I quote Dr. Eddie O'Connor again. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. You keep practicing something bad, and you've got a new habit that could take you years to overcome.
Yeah, practicing something incorrectly, you're backtracking, right? If you're constantly practicing sloppy line work, it's going to take you much longer to get good line quality than if you're starting from scratch.
Okay.
Because first you have to undo all the bad habits, then you have to work on the good habits.
Yes. Should we do another voicemail? I don't really think we offered anything new.
You just love voicemails.
Hello. My question is quite simple, I think. It is, how can I deal with being influenced by multiple art styles? I love realistic art, but I also love more stylized art, and I don't know which one to pursue. It got me to a point where I find myself unable to create any original work, since I don't know what I want to do. Thanks, Proko, for answering.
This is decision anxiety. How can you answer this? Do the realistic stuff. Do the graphic stuff. It's your responsibility.
I think we offered less on this one than on the previous one.
We did. But how could you answer this question?
I don't know. Just like grow up, dude. Make a decision.
It wouldn't be that, but it's an anxiety issue for him that I don't know what to do, but that's part of the responsibility of choosing. Everyone's responsible to choose for those things that they can choose. And
it's almost like he thinks there's a right answer, though.
Yeah.
Like, if I pick this one, it's wrong. I must go with this one.
Yeah,
who's gonna tell you what the right answer is? You just have to look deep down and decide what you want more, or just combine them. Come up with a new thing, realistic stylized style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that is a good answer. I don't know whether it's going to solve it for him, because I sense the fear of buyer's regret. I sense that if I choose this one, I got to give up that. Oh, okay, then I'll choose the other one. No, but if I choose that, I'm going to give that up. And when a person does not know what they want, I don't know what to say, but hopefully you will want something enough to say, I am going to make a choice. And the creativity of combining two things to make a new thing is part of the fun of many of an artist. To say, I've got the realistic thing, I've got the graphic thing. Andrew Wyeth talked about that he felt like he did not want the subject matter to be the only important thing in his realistic paintings. He wanted the abstract design to be important too. And he said, I don't want one to overtake the other. I try for a balance. And he also said that was exciting to him, so that he's approaching this stylistic conflict as a creative challenge. And how can I rise to the occasion and see how to work it out? But it will take work. It will take experimenting with it. How do I choose this element and that element? Do something, doesn't quite work, but I think I can do it better next time. So this is a lot of the questions that we get are questions for therapists and people that are close to the person. That there's just no way that we can give an answer that is going to be satisfactory. Should we try a third one?
I've got a third one lined up.
All right, let's do a third one.
Hi, Stan and Marshall. This is Emily. I called you guys before, but my phone died in the middle of the voicemail. But I wanted to know, I saw on Stan's book recommendation list that you had Robert Henry, if that's how you say his name right, The Art Spirit, recommended. And in that book, I was reading it, he talks about painting from life and not worrying about learning how to draw before you paint. You might have covered this in the Fundamentals podcast, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that and the pros and cons for someone like me who's a self-taught artist taking that approach. Thanks.
My experience with artists that paint but don't draw is that they're usually worse. Their skill level is usually worse. Because you can learn so much about... I think you can learn quicker through drawing than through painting. Certain things. Not color. I mean, you know, but just like... It's faster, it's cheaper. It's much better for students. A pencil and a paper versus expensive oil paint. I don't know. That's just my experience. I know that, again, it's like it depends. Like I'm sure there's people out there that don't really draw, but they're amazing painters because they just spend all their time focusing on this medium and not splitting their time between mediums. I'm sure that's possible, but just my experience is the people that learned how to draw first adapted to painting extremely quickly and passed up all the people that didn't draw and have just been painting for a few years. That's my experience.
That makes sense to me, that drawing is the foundation of painting. Many a teacher has said it. Many an artist has said it.
Yeah. Like perspective. It's going to be so much harder to learn perspective through painting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, one follows the other naturally.
Yeah.
But I would not exclude the possibility of arranging values in your training at the beginning and then gradually seeing I need to know how a cross contour affects that light, that core shadow. But I would wonder, why would you be inclined to do one before the other? And if you're really inclined to deal with value and color before you deal with drawing, or at the expense of dealing with drawing, it may be that you've got a vision for what you're going to do. You think of Monet's work, you think of Seurat's work. These are so tonally, impressionistically, pointillistically influenced by the shimmer, the impression of what hits your eyes, that they hardly need classic draftsmanship. And you think of an expressivist like Van Gogh, let alone the literal expressionists of the early 20th century. Van Gogh was before them, that is not concerned with classic drawing, is concerned with emotional oomph into the brushstrokes and the choices of the values and colors. Yeah. It can be done, but I think asking this to us on a podcast called Draftsmen
that's funny,
is to ask it of people who are very biased toward the traditional approach.
Yeah, but you said something interesting. You said if you want to separate, you grouped value and color with painting and you separated it out of drawing. I connect value with drawing.
Yes, it makes sense. That's what the value and drawing certainly overlap.
Because I would say learn shading and form with drawing first and then apply it to painting. But I think when people hear that and their ultimate goal is to be painters, they think, oh, I'm going to have to not paint for several years and just draw. And that's not true. I never not painted.
It's not an either or.
I started painting when I was 13. I mean, I probably had a few years in my teens and that I didn't paint, but like once I got serious, I was painting all the time. It's just that I was spending probably more than half of my time drawing. And I still had fun and painted and went, plein air painting and did portraits and stuff. I was still enjoying the medium that I love. Because that is important, just being comfortable with the feeling of the oil paint and holding a brush, because it is a little bit different. And keeping that mileage and that control of a brush throughout the years is important, even if it's just a little bit, a few hours a week or something. It's enough to not have to start learning the medium from scratch later. I don't know. Yeah, don't think that if you saying that you have to learn how to draw first means you can't paint.
Yeah. And I remember seeing an artist in LA who worked tonally right from the beginning. He'd arrange masses of oil paint, and then he'd use a fan brush to blend it, and then he'd gradually blend and blend and blend and blend and do these beautiful portraits. So it's clearly value in a fog that gradually crispens. And he had a good eye. but it isn't the way, it's certainly not the way a 3D program works. It can't render, it can't give you light and dark until it has a scaffolding of something to put the light and dark on. And so that, to me, is my biased way of how I think a student should learn. Don't want to be dogmatic about it.
I don't think I understand.
Where did I lose you?
At the beginning. A computer program, you think a student should learn how a computer program does it?
No, the way a computer program works is that it can't render until it has a wire frame.
Oh, okay. Oh, got it.
It needs something to put the light onto,
Learn the structure.
Yeah.
Then use value to reveal the structure that you've already figured out linearly. I got you now.
Okay. Hey, Stan.
Page. Yeah.
What's your thing?
I'm not done with it yet, but Melissa and I have been watching Chernobyl.
I've heard it's good.
Love it. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brandon's.
I binge watched it with a friend. It's amazing.
How many days did it take you?
It was one day.
What, you did the whole thing in one day?
We couldn't stop watching.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Melissa and I can only do one episode a day, so. But yeah, I would binge watch that. It's great.
How far are you into it?
We're over halfway. It's fun to think that when this happened, I was -2 months old.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was 7 months. My mom was 7 months pregnant, and we were in Ukraine.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You were close enough for. Wow.
Yeah, and it's even more fun to think about. I mean, none of this fun. It's
fun,
really tragic, actually. Yeah. But like to think that people in like Germany were affected, like people really far away were affected, and we were in the same country.
Mm-hmm.
And like the wind took all the radiation. It went north and south. Oh, not north. Sorry, it went like north and east and west, but it didn't go south,
mm-hmm.
which is where we were. And so we actually didn't really get affected by it. We were in Odessa.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got extremely lucky, because I mean, millions of people have diseases because of it. Like a lot higher chance of getting cancer, nervous system diseases because of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're in good health. I'm glad you made it. Okay.
That's my thing. But yeah, no, the show is just really good, even if you're not Ukrainian.
Yeah, I would like to see it at some point.
You should. That's one that I'm like insisting on you.
Okay, yeah,
I don't like watching shows that were made today, but
I'm fine watching it later when
what do you mean later?
Be around.
Buster Scruggs.
Marshall, you're old.
You
can't wait much longer.
I've got at least another. Can't say. Not something you can predict. But yeah, I'm not in a hurry, because it's happening now is not that important to me. But I know that it's quality, and that's why I'll get to it.
So what's your thing?
Hey, I want to tell you what my thing is. When I was 15 years old, a movie came out called Paper Moon that I saw at the movie theater, and I enjoyed it so much at the age of 15 that I went back to see it again. And then I don't remember that it ever came out on VHS. The 70s, there was no VHS. And it finally came out on DVD when I was 45 years old. I saw it on DVD. And I wondered whether it would hold up as well as I remembered it, and it held up so well.
Really?
I've seen this movie 30 times.
What's it called? Paper Moon?
Paper Moon.
Let me see.
And there's a number of good movies with kid protagonists. Oh, of the last 2 years, 2017, The Florida Project. Do not miss The Florida Project if you want to see one of the most amazing performances of a child, an 8-year-old, 7 or 8-year-old protagonist. But Paper Moon, Tatum O'Neal played an 8-year-old protagonist. She won an Academy Award for it. It was the youngest that anybody had won an Academy Award. And I got to show it to my son when he was 15, and he also responded to it. But it's been one of the most enjoyable and repeatable films, interestingly shot in black and white in the 70s. But Peter Bogdanovich had just shot a movie with Barbara Streisand and Ryan O'Neal called What's Up, Doc? That was such a hit that the studio allowed him to do what he hoped to do, which is shoot it in black and white. It looks like it's shot in the 30s. I don't want to tell you anything more about it. You can find out more about it if you like it. And if you do like it, Peter Bogdanovich has a commentary track on it where he talks about how he made the choices, what lenses he chose, how the exposure and all that kind of. It was really insightful stuff from a filmmaker on how to make a good film.
Nice.
He was one of those rare filmmakers that was a film reviewer. He was an expert on film before he actually made one, which rarely happens, but he did it and did it well. And I feel like that's his high watermark as a filmmaker. But I really recommend Paper Moon. I think you will like it.
Cool. All right, guys, leave a comment in the...
Hey, I got a better idea. Leave us a 5-star review. Wow. Did I finally succeed?
You got the energy.
Yeah, you did it.
Well, what was missing? It was the energy.
You didn't tell them where.
Pardon?
iTunes. Yeah, do it on iTunes.
Okay, yeah. I'll do that. I'll try that next time.
It was a
Leave a 5-star review on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
like,
put an upvote on iTunes.
Yeah.
And be sure to subscribe on Reddit.
Write a review on Yelp.
Okay. How about the comments on this one? This is
the comments. I think is an obvious one. If you're a parent and an artist, give some advice. I think that's the most useful one.
Yeah. And,
right?
And being realistic about it, some kind of hope and encouragement, because there is nothing harder. I don't know that there's anything harder than parenthood. There are things harder, but it just universally speaking, it's just the challenge of life. And so many people feel like I need encouragement. If you've got anything to say that is actually helpful, I don't know that what we said was that helpful. I hope it was.
Yeah. I don't think we solved anyone's problems.
No.
But we talked about it.
We talked about it.
You're bringing awareness to the problem.
Yeah.
The problem.
Yeah, the problem of children.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know if it's a...
I hope for you to have community. I hope for you to have people that when you look back on it, you have bonding and fond affection for people who helped you through it, as well as your kids.
And I want to remind people that my child was planned and Marshall's was celebrated. I'm just joking. We might cut that out.
My son was planned.
Okay, good.
I refuse to accept this abuse any longer. Podcast over.
Okay.